was part of this last year, and I'm so excited to be here because people like you are the reason that I'm alive. People who show up, people who get curious. And so I'm particularly fond of you. Thank you to each one of you for my glorious life. The thing is, the stories we tell about ourselves, about whether we're a leader or not and where we are on our journey, they are the most powerful things for affecting how much impact you have, how much difference you make. And there are different stories that will do that. There's the stories you hear, the stories you tell, and the stories you choose to believe. So what's your story? Because the truth about you is wrapped up in this. Let's start now. I'll ask a question. I don't want you to think about it too much. I just want you to tell the truth, okay? Right now, put your hand up if you are a success. Stop nudging your friend. You decide yourself. When I asked this in America, people are on the table by now. Yes, ma'am! You're going, oh, I don't know, Maureen. Should I put my hand up? Put that. Where are the successes? Put your hands up if you're a success. Right, stand up if you've got your hand up. Stand up. If you're a white male, you can just stand up. People are clapping when you come out the womb, so you just own that. Right, so these, all right, but slow burn, slow burn. These are the successes. I'm guessing everyone sat down is an abject failure. Is that right? Everyone, no, don't sit down when I say abject failure. Nobody got, who'd you get your dress this morning? Did you get yourself dressed? Success! There we go. So it's really interesting when I ask this question, because if you look around failures, have a look at the people standing up, the successes. The difference between them and you is that when I asked about success, they found a story in themselves that said, you know what, I am standing up. Now, they all might be millionaires, although probably not, looking at some of them. They might be really successful, but we don't know because success is about the story we tell ourselves. I'm interested that there are some tables with only one person standing up on, and everyone else is going, oh yeah, well done, who does she think she is? So there's some tables with everybody standing up, peer pressure. Everyone's, I better get up, I don't know what I'm going to say if they ask me. My suggestion, if you're sat down, is that you rub yourself up against these people standing up at lunch in the hope that it rubs off. Thank you, successors. Take a seat. What is the story that you are telling about yourself? What's the story that you're going to tell? Here's my story. I don't know anything about boats. And when you're a speaker, you get invited to huge events like this, and there's parties afterwards. And I go into this event, and it's fantastic, and I go to the party afterwards, and I know I'm an only at this party. I'm the only woman in the room, and also I'm one of 3 brown people. So I know it's going to be a nightmare. And I go in, and I hear people talking about boats, and I'm like, I've got it. I can do this. My mum's just bought a boat. So I go up to someone, I go, oh yes, my mum's just bought a boat. Pressing down that, oh, you're too working class, you're not middle class enough, you can't join in. Pushing that story down. My mum's just bought a boat. One of the guys turns around and says, oh, what sort of boat? And that's where I think, oh yeah, don't actually know anything about boats. So I dig into my boat schemer. It's not a canoe. It's not got sails, so it's not a sailboat. It's definitely not a ferry. And I'm trying to work out any other words I know. And then one word comes to mind, and with complete confidence, I say, it's a frigate. And one guy laughed so hard, he nearly chokes on his canape. I mean, it was a terrifying moment. This is a frigate, it's a warship, right? So my 75-year-old white mum, who adopted me before she became a vicar, did not buy one of these. But in the moment of laughter, suddenly I had a belonging, not just belonging, enthusiastic belonging. The laughter, the willingness to be vulnerable, because authenticity requires vulnerability, but we're not always banging up for it. I had a story that was a narrative my whole life, and it was like 2 prison bars, 2 statements that were like my theme tune that I sang along to. So when anyone asked me to do anything, this came up first. This was the story I had. And this changed. I'm not good enough became I am enough. And people like me don't do things like that became people like me do this. But it took a long time, and it was painful, and I know how many times I was on the floor. What you see now is a story in progress. What's your story? What's your narrative? If I ask you if you're a leader, do you rely on your role, or do you rely on who you are and what you do? I was asked to speak in California. The first time I was flown abroad, I went to California. And I traveled there, and I got there, I'd never been there before, I went to the hotel, I went downstairs, I met the guy who booked me, and I suddenly got complete, like, truth Tourette's. I just suddenly splurged out everything I was thinking with no filters. And I said to him, I can't do this, I'm really bad at this, I don't know what my value is, you've made a mistake, I don't know why you've asked me. Which is not a great thing to say to the guy who's just paid for 5 hours of business class champagne. So he looks at me and he goes, you got imposter syndrome. It's not a syndrome if you are actually an imposter. I've just told you, I can't do this. Yeah, imposter syndrome. And what was interesting in that moment is that he has a story about me. Like the people at the party had a story about me. It's a different story to the one I have. The story I have about me relies on those prison bars, but sometimes you have to go with fact over feeling. Who you are is not dictated by some shabby view of whether you think you're good enough or not. Who you are is dictated by the people you influence, the people you lead in your family, your kids, yourself, your partner, your community, your organization, people who ask you for advice. They already see you as a leader. And if you're not owning that, there's a mismatch, a disconnect. And the problem is the stories we tell get formed very early, and sometimes we have to unpick them. I never felt like a leader because I would always revert back to who I was. And this is me with my brothers and sister. That's a girl. I cut her hair. There's another brother taking the picture. This is my brother and sister when I was about like 10, 11. I know it's called a carer now, but I was basically a slave. My only existence was to take care of these kids. We were street kids. I want to say we were working class, but no one in my family worked. We were on the rob. We stole to eat, we stole food. I was in a situation where I was on the streets a lot. I was neglected, I was abused. And all of that beds down into you. I was angry, I was cross, I hated myself and everyone else. And that story fed through so that even when I became skilled, even when I had success, still, that's the story inside. And it's a disconnect. I used to do a bit of wedding photography. Never taken photos before, but I know how it works. So I would turn up at a wedding, and I charged like £250, but my photos were really good. And a bride said to me, you know, your price is a bit suspicious, because your photos look good, but when you're so cheap, it makes us think, what's wrong with you? My mum thought you might have halitosis. That's why you charge less. I'm like, okay, first of all, check breath before coming out. You've got to tell the story that matches who you are. It makes such a difference when you're around people who are giving you information that you choose to believe in. I had a story I wanted, a dream that I wanted to change to, and that story was I wanted to go to university. Now, I was in and out of foster care when I was a kid, and like even today, 3% of children in foster care go to university. They don't finish, not all of them finish, 3% actually go, but I wanted to be the one. I might as well have wished to be a swordfish, but I was desperate to go. So when I did my A-levels, I got 2 E's and an N, which stands for nearly an A-level, but not enough to get into uni, so I started phoning universities, and I got to Aberdeen University, and I said, oh, hello, my name's Jaz, I've got 2 E's, and she said, oh, 2 E's, that's amazing, come for an interview. And I was like, no, 2 E's, oh, no. And I thought, oh, so actually E and A sound the same. So actually, the only thing in the way of me going to uni is the fact that I was unfortunately born south of the Scottish border. That's easily remedied. So I skipped to B, and I called a couple of years, and I said, hello, my name's Jaz. I got 2 E's. And they said, yeah, come for an interview. And I'm like, yes, no, what have I done? What are you going to do, pretend to be Scottish for 4 years? Can't even do it on a phone call. This is terrible news. But I went to the interview, and I spoke to the guy, and I explained that I was temporarily Scottish, and it was an accident. And we had a conversation, and he said to me, if you promise to be more authentic, I promise to get you a place at this uni. I said, yeah, okay, because I didn't know what authentic meant. And when I looked it up, I regretted it immediately. Because being authentic meant being on the outside. It meant being different. It meant being myself. I don't want to be myself. I had an invisible friend. I invented a family. I had a brother called Tarquin. I know, fooling no one. But I wanted to make myself acceptable because I couldn't see that I was already leading, that I'd led myself, I'd led my brothers and sister, that I was leading now. I couldn't see it. I had a different story. So I lived as Spider-Man when I should have been Batman. The interesting thing about this is that the pen is in your hand. This day is your day. It's your day to choose the story you're going to tell, the truth about you. Not their story, not even his story, your story. The story that you own, the story that you write. And in that story, by the way, you're the main character. You're not some non-player character that bumps into things. You are the main character. So what does that look like? When I was asked to do a TEDx talk, I was going to play it safe, turn the volume down on myself, try and blend in. That was my whole plan. Until the moment that I got on the stage and I realized that this is a chance to tell the truth. This is a chance to be who I am and to quieten the voices once and for all. My TEDx talk has been viewed like over 100,000 times. It's really special, it's really cool. But afterwards, when I came off stage after being my truest self, I just burst into tears. I couldn't even come out. I sat behind the flat, just crying. The release of finally shedding the skin was so overwhelming and exhausting, it finished me. It's not a straight journey. It's going to be hard. All the best things are. This is my success. This is what my family looks like now. That's my husband, Best Bottom, north of Watford. Solid fact. These are my kids. We have a value. I've brought my kids up to be leaders because I know they're phenomenal people, but I also know that my daughter, who is brown and gorgeous, is going to have the same journey that I have because we haven't done a good enough job of sorting things out yet. I know that I have to say to my sons, here's what you do when you get stopped by the police. My 10-year-old son. I know that these things are still there, but I still bring them up to be leaders. Empathy, engaging others, enrolling others in a conversation that is courageous. Where are you? Where are you on your journey? That hero's journey by Joseph Campbell, have you heard of it? It's like every film story is based on it. As a hero, they're reluctant, they meet a guide, the guide helps them, they fail, then they succeed, and everybody goes home with a car, something like that. I looked at the hero's journey, and the problem with it was there's not enough women in it. There's a couple of women, but they're either mothers or whores. Now, I'm both of those and so much more. So I decided to come up with my own one, the hero's journey, because she rose. So that's what I'm going to do. And I've got this hero's journey, I've mapped it out. It's the story I took, it's the story I'm on. It's not linear, but it's where you are. So where are you on the hero's journey? The first stage is being a fear fighter. That means deciding that you don't know if it's going to work, but you're going to do it anyway. You're going to be brave enough anyway. The second stage is becoming a mistake artist, deliberate mistake, where you reframe failure and you stop apologizing for taking up space. You know when you get on Zoom with someone and they go, oh, I'm so sorry, I haven't done my hair. So sorry about my fake tan. So sorry I've got washing. Sorry I've got a cat. Sorry I've got a baby. Sorry I've got a life. Stop apologizing for taking air up. Just take the air. The third stage is being a resilience ninja. Booyah! This is where you reinvent yourself repeatedly and you shorten the time between being on the floor and getting back up. And the last stage, the invitation for you today, is to be a positive disruptor, where you invite people into courageous conversations. One of the things I love about watching Sophie is how endearing she is. She gets you to agree to something before you realize you've said yes. That's what we need to be. Invitation, invite people, because no one is more than one sandwich away from joining a revolution at any time. So here's the invitation. Get your phones out. I've got a present for you. I've got 2 presents for you because I'm super generous. Get your phones out, get your phones out. This is the hero's journey. I have recorded 4 videos on each stage. They're short 10-minute videos. You can watch them, make some decisions about them, and choose your path. It's a choose your own adventure story. You can take a photo of it, you can go there, you can do that afterwards. The second present I've got for you is on your tables, there's some cards. And these cards say the truth about you. If you haven't got enough, come see me after I've got loads. What I want you to do, and it's an invitation, is to give this to someone that you know and trust. Give it to someone you know and trust and say, please will you write the truth about me? I know some of you are now changing the name of the person you were thinking of. Oh. Please will you write the truth about me? And then, the next time something happens where you think, I'm not good enough, or people like me don't do things like this, you're going to take this card out and you're going to choose to stand on the truth about yourself. You're going to choose to tell a story that is befitting the human you are, because you have not worked this hard or fought this much to live some sort of mediocre life. Take up the space and do it with kindness and gentleness. You are literally phenomenal human beings. Thank you so much.